There's a thinker, René Girard, who's very brilliant. He was an anthropologist and he was a literary theorist and a philosopher of sorts. And he came up with this very sophisticated argument for why violence and resentment exists the way it does in human communities. And so the theory starts with this idea that human beings mimic each other. We learn through mimicry. We have mirror neurons in our brains, but basically when you smile at a child, the child smiles. If you cry, it might provoke someone else to cry. And this is incredibly important for the development of the human species and community, that we can influence each other, that we share our desires, etc., etc. But one of the issues with mimetic desire is I don't just mimic you know what you do. I don't just learn from you. I also learn about what you desire, and I mimic your desire. So what happens is I start to desire what the people around me desire. So I learn what's desirable, not directly through just liking chess or liking TV or whatever. I learn what's desirable by copying the desire of other people. But this causes a problem. So mimetic desire is the whole foundation of society. It's the foundation of how we can create civilization. But hard baked into it is this idea that we start to all desire similar things. And this causes violence. Because as soon as we start fighting over a partner or money or something, then the only way to resolve it is through, we get into a fight and then maybe eventually one of us dies. So hard baked into civilization is this violence that erupts because we all start desiring similar things. You see it somebody goes to a restaurant, one person buys a meal, and so the other person suddenly, they want to order the same thing. Or someone starts to find a person attractive because somebody else does. Or in relationships, you start to desire what the other person desires. They're into French film or something, so you take an interest. And then weirdly, you think it's your desire, but it was actually given to you by the other person. So whenever two people split up, they start to fight over things like, these albums are my albums. You go like, but no, that's the band that I love. And you go like, no, I introduced you to that band. So weirdly, all of our desires are intermingled. So for Girard, the idea is, well, how does society prevent all-out war? How do you manage violence? And he says that basically what happened is originally communities would get together, the violence and the resentment would get bigger and bigger until someone died, someone was killed. And then that would chill everybody out for a while. And I would kill you, and then I would, take your stuff, and I would be happy. And
Mean.
What's that?
Mean,
yes, but fair.
Also, what are you going to take?
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's not much the enviable in your thing.
Yeah,
that duvet cover's nice. You've got in the bed.
Yeah, thank you, Amazon.
Yeah. So we kind of like there's a violence erupts. Somebody's killed. That chills everybody out for a bit. So what happens then is religion comes in, and one of religion's founding rules is to manage this violence, to make sure it doesn't destroy everybody. So then religion starts to create structures for this violence to happen. It starts off with human sacrifices, then animal sacrifices, but basically creates a scapegoat. So that whenever the violence and the aggression in the community is very big, you kill something, it chills everybody out. Everybody kind of mutually dislikes the scapegoat. You kill the scapegoat and everyone feels a bit better. And so René Girard is saying that's how early societies managed this violence. And then he's got an interesting reading of Christianity. He says that Christianity is the revelation of the scapegoating mechanism, because the idea in mythology is the scapegoat deserves it. The scapegoat, it's ordained by God or the universe or the gods. To kill someone is fine, or to kill the animal. But
like in sacrifice?
In sacrifice. So it's all the sacrificial system. But for René Girard, who's not a theologian or anything, but he took an interest in Christianity because he said the whole point of the crucifixion is it's a scapegoating mechanism, but the scapegoat's innocent. So the idea is that the Christian experience is the one where you realize that the scapegoat is not the problem, that the violence is yours. So the idea is that we have to realize that the violence that we put out onto other people is internal to ourselves. And then when, for Girard, this is where I'm a little bit different from him, but what Girard says is whenever we acknowledge that we have all of this finding violence within us and it's exposed, that can help us relieve it in more productive ways.
Damn, we do a good podcast. That's some good stuff right there.
Yeah.
That was good.
Is that okay?
In my mind, I'm thinking about the entire society that we currently live in. That is in an insane state right now, or at least it seems to be. And it's very interesting to hear that interpretation or that thing, or like interpret society where we're at through that. What you just said.
Yeah, because I mean, like in contemporary society, a scapegoat is an enemy. You know, if you've got a society that's falling apart, it's great to blame some individual or some community, and that gets everybody unified. So the violence of the community is kind of like manageable, and then if you kill the enemy, then there's a moment of cathartic release. But for Girard, it never lasts. That's the problem, because of mimetic desire, then violence will always come back.
Yeah.
So the trick is, how do we actually overcome the violence? That's what I hope we get to at some point in the podcast.
Okay, cool.
But this initial bit is just going, oh yeah, like all of us, you know, we desire what the people around us desire. That puts us into conflict with them if there's a limited number of resources. And so we have to find ways to get rid of that resentment and that anger.